I eat 2 meals per day, eggs, bacon, and a bit of cheese in the morning, sometimes beef as well, a cup of coffee, usually with a splash of... Oh, must be the almond milk that's causing her heart palpitations, though. Let's read some of the others. They're having to add salt. They're having to add electrolytes, which is the mineral salts which are obtained from the soil and uptaken by the plants and then converted from inorganic salts into organic salts, which can be utilized by the body by conversion process from plants. And they're trying to get their electrolytes from adding salt because they're having severe muscle cramps during the night when they're sleeping in their legs, and it's insane. And then, hey guys, the fart breath appears to be coming back since I started fasting a week ago. How can I stop the shit mouth? Could it be me feasting too hard and cramming a lot in a little time? The fart breath, the shit mouth and shit pants. There's actually a thing called disaster pants and keto crotch and diarrhea face, such as carb cravings, extreme bodily odors, including fart breath. Keto crotch and bowel movement smells that will clear out. Oh god, diarrhea, which again, this is disaster pants. And then the constipation for a week or longer. They say this is normal.
If you have a sandwich or something right now, you might just want to go ahead and put that down. Mm-hmm. Okay. So okay. So I went on Reddit, and the very first thing when you type in disaster pants keto, this is one of the first links that comes up, and the thread title here, and this is on the R Keto community with 1.2 million subscribers. So a couple people read this. The thread title is disaster pants.
Oh, really?
Are you ready to hear the comment that this person left?
And I'm assuming that this could get graphic, so I will ask.
This
try
is
to keep
G.
it PG.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna go with G even. Ooh. So, expletive, period. Today I wasn't very hungry, so I've literally had coffee with MCT oil, a salad with chicken and egg and walnuts and blue cheese, and a large herbal tea with MCT oil. My colorful word for poo is water. Please advise. Too much MCT oil? Lots of question marks. My stomach feels like it's churning itself.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
All right, so for people who aren't familiar, MCT oil is
medium chain triglyceride oil, and we will get into that. But before we do, I just want to note that one of the first responses here was maybe too much salad.
That was a user response?
That was a user response, and my answer, no. As someone who eats 3 large salads a day, even if you don't eat salad and you go to eat a salad, it's not going to have the kind of impact that this person experienced on their gastrointestinal health.
Wow.
So, but MCT oil, or that medium chain triglyceride oil, is a keto diet sort of staple for a lot of people. And if you go into a slightly more reliable source, the PubMed database, and you put in diarrhea, medium chain triglycerides, you will get quite a few results. And indeed, a lot of studies have found that MCT oil can cause not just diarrhea, but also, get ready, abdominal discomfort, cramping, gassiness, and bloating.
Wow, that just sounds like the disclaimers at the end of a medication commercial.
Is a similar effect in that it causes, again, put your sandwich down, steatorrhea, which is, any guesses on what that might be?
Steatorrhea?
Uh-huh.
It's like stay out of here with that rhea?
Yeah, well, really it is. So it's fatty, because that root word is stea, like steatorrhea, so fatty diarrhea.
Ooh.
I'm saying that quiet because nobody really needs to hear that.
Ooh.
I know. Yeah.
That sandwich is going to stay down.
It's going to cut your appetite this episode.
Y'all know that girl, Elise Parker. She allegedly did the carnivore diet, then basically got called out for faking it and violating the FTC guidelines for influencers. Well, it turns out she may not have faked it after all. And some personal details about her experience appear to have surfaced. Allegedly, she posted on her Instagram story how she pooped in her pants on the carnivore diet, not once, but twice. This looks legit. If it's fake news, I will take this video down. But regardless, this is in line with the entire compilation of explosive diarrhea experiences I just put together in a hilarious video you can see by clicking on the thumbnail that pops up at the end of this video. I'll also put a link to the original source video for this, and I want y'all to tell me in the comment section whether or not you think it's fake news. Alright, y'all know what time it is. Red pill vegan. Next.
Ridiculous diet, and I'm talking about explosive diet. That's just gonna be all over the damn place. Oh my god. Shit everywhere. There's shit everywhere!
I've had rocketing diarrhea.
From meat. That's
From all meat, yeah.
Damn it! There's shit on the windows! Oh my god! My house is full of shit! He shit everywhere! Look what he did! He shit all over the wall!
I've had rocketing diarrhea.
From meat. That's
From all meat, yeah.
When can you do it? How about tonight at 8?
Great, thanks. Thank you, Lloyd. I gotta go upstairs. I gotta go upstairs to come leave. See you at 8.
You think you might have appendicitis?
Well, my stomach's rumbling and I'm having these shooting pains.
Okay, maybe I should take you to the hospital.
No, I'll be all right. It makes me all queasy and...
You might notice diarrhea. That's like a common thing in both the keto and carnivore communities to warn people to never trust a
Oh, wow. Yeah, you know what? I think I feel a little better.
when you're starting keto or carnivore.
That actually stain the toilet bowl like if it was turmeric.
0 gas, 0 bloating. I fuck twice a day. At a time of my own choosing, by the way.
I don't know about you, but I seriously don't on the carnivore diet. I don't feel like I've really farted. I don't think I did on keto or GAPS either.
I'll tell you one thing, I do not trust my butthole at all. When I feel coming on, I'm like, oh, this could be a disaster.
The thread title is Disaster Pants.
Oh, really?
In my belly. It's like it's gross. And I've had food poisoning 3 times already. In 5 weeks. Like, this is a nightmare diet for anybody. Food poisoning as a vegan in the 10 years was like 0. I don't remember ever having it.
Raw bone marrow. So for those of you who don't know, Sverige, another raw carnivore dieter, he almost died from eating raw bone marrow. He got an infection called Campylobacteria. It nearly killed him. That bacteria, it attacks your nervous system, and it can actually make your heart shut down. And Sverige made a video about it on his channel.
What I tried is eating the beef leg and the bone marrow inside of the bone. For whatever reason, I got this bacteria called Campylobacteria enteritis something. I'll write it in the description. And what I actually got was one of the rarest cases, where more rare than others. People usually don't get this. Is that my muscles stopped working, and it took me a month now to actually get fully recovered from it. I actually talked to a trainer, and she said that many people got completely paralyzed from it, and some people even die from it because it goes in the heart, and the heart is a muscle and makes the heart stop beating. So those are really bad cases.
So here's Frank encouraging people to eat raw meat, including raw bone marrow, when other carnivore YouTubers have tried this and they nearly died from it. It's serious. Like, obviously, sooner or later, if you're gonna eat raw meat all the time, you're going to get an infection like this. So, like Frank, you know, keep doing that, at least if you die.
The other one was digestive issues, and so what I tend to see is people who begin their adaptation phase might experience gas, bloating, diarrhea, like loose stools, brain fog, like just nausea in general. And this could be quite a few different things. Maybe their ratios of fat to protein are off. Maybe they're consuming way too much fat, not enough protein, or vice versa. So it helps to play with the levels. I like to be around 25% protein, 75% fat. The main source of my calories are coming from, I'd say, like beef fat, organ meats, and then I eat maybe like a half pound of beef a day, your gut microbiome is like shifting majorly because all these bacteria in your digestive tract within the, well, hopefully they're not really so much in the small intestine, but mostly in the colon, they're going to be dying off and they're going to be leaving your body because they no longer have a source of food, which is coming from the fiber. And so as these bacteria leave your body and they die off and starve to death, there's going to be some uncomfortable sensations. There might be some signals to eat carbohydrates as these things die off. So
if there's nothing happening, and you could say all your good bacteria are dead, you have a lifeless sack of crabs down there, and that's why you have no gas, maybe, but it sure feels nice.
People can have some pretty intense reactions. I know I definitely had some like stomach cramping, some diarrhea, some uncomfortability for like the first couple weeks. And I watched my, one of my best friends go through a much more challenging adaptation phase. But now he's doing extremely well. But the first 30 days were just really intense. So it's really common. I wouldn't be too scared if you got some cramps and some digestion issues. There's just like major changes going on.
And a lot of that's because your body just hasn't built up a system to be digesting all that fat. And so you need both the stomach acid part and the bile from the liver part. A lot of people are able to use ox bile, and I think I'll link to it down below. There's a stomach acid supplement, and I know a lot of you guys have had experience with that I usually don't recommend a ton of supplements, but that's kind of something you can use as a crutch as you're getting your body used to eating this biologically appropriate diet that you're going to feel good on. Pooping problems. Stinky poops. This can be the gut flora thing that we just talked about, or your poop can stink. And it's just like your body, like I said, it has an awesome detoxification system. So if it makes too much of something, it gets rid of it. And so if your poop, like you just started keto or you just started carnivore and your poop's super stinky, it could be just ketones. Not a big deal. It'll go away.
All right, guys, so the truth about what's actually happening here, which apparently none of these low carbers actually understand anything about what really happens inside the gut, especially with the microbiome. I mean, they'll talk about it and they'll pay it lip service and they'll appeal to it, but yet they don't, if they actually understand anything about the microbiome, they'll understand how it works, which it cannot possibly work on the carnivore diet, because what happens is all of your good, your healthy gut bacteria, the bacteria strains that actually the Bacteroides, you have two major enterotypes, which is either Bacteroides dominant or Prevotella dominant. And the Bacteroides dominant is basically a gut microbiome that is adjusted to high animal food products, as opposed to a Prevotella dominant, which is conducive to high fiber, high plant food intake, a plant-based diet. So these are two separate microbiomes. One is associated, the Bacteroides dominant is associated with higher rates of aggression, of violence, and as well as mood disorders, neurobehavioral disorders such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, and chronic anxiety, chronic depression. And the reason for this, the actual mechanism for this, lies in the microbiome itself. Because these gut bacteria, the Prevotella dominant bacteria, they feed on the resistant starch, or all of that evil fiber that we can't digest, which is actually what makes it so healthy, which is why the more fiber that actually is not broken down and digested is more food for the healthy gut bacteria. And they move in and they start eating this fiber, and they ferment it, and that fermentation process produces short chain fatty acids and medium chain fatty acids such as butyrate, propionate, as well as neuropeptides, neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine. And so the production of these peptides and these neurotransmitters are known in outcomes in large-scale studies correlated with better health outcomes of lower risk and even preventing and even curing chronic depression, anxiety, neuropsychiatric and neurobehavioral disorders such as, again, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, mood swings, anger, violence, and all of these things, which is has been also shown in the prison study, where they placed cohorts of the prison population onto either a whole vegan diet or chose to keep their diet the same, and the recidivism rate dramatically decreased by 98%, which means the recurrence of violent or the recurrence of crime. But so these neurotransmitters also produce lower rates and even cures symptoms of autism, ADHD, anxiety, and again, these neurobehavior and neuropsychiatric disorders, as well as Parkinson's.
A California official was quoted as saying, "There is a noticeable difference in the personalities of the vegetarian inmates. They smile more, are fully racially integrated, attend religious classes and anger management classes eagerly." Within 10 days, the vegan inmates expressed improvement in how they feel. One prisoner named Eric was so impacted by the program, he said it changed his life forever. "From the day I left the facility, I have never used drugs again or taken another drink. I no longer have to push a cart around on the streets. They broke a chain for me with diet and spiritual intervention. I owe it all to them." In fact, he is happily married and is working as a licensed drug and alcohol counselor. You can read about Eric's experience here. Whilst researching the prison program, I stumbled across a quote from a senior sociology lecturer called Dr. Taylor from Flinders University. She had found that meat workers' aggression levels were so high they're similar to the scores for incarcerated populations. This then led me to a study from the universities of Windsor and Michigan State, which found that in locations surrounding slaughterhouses, there are clusters of domestic violence incidences and violent crimes such as rape and sex offences amongst the workers and their communities that seem to occur because of the nature of the work in the slaughterhouse. The findings indicated that slaughterhouse employment increased total arrest rates, arrests for violent crimes, arrests for rape, and arrests for other sex offences in comparison with other industries. Another study conducted in Australia also found the same thing. I'm not trying to offend anyone here. We must be respectful of people's decisions on what they choose to eat. These studies don't apply to most people, as those who eat meat don't kill the animals themselves. However, it's been said that by eating animal products, we desensitize ourselves consciously or subconsciously from the suffering and cruelty of the meat, dairy, and egg industries.
So I want you guys to check out this image even closer. I want you to see if you notice anything about these bodies, about these corpses. Do you notice anything that might remind you of somebody? Just something to consider with what might be going on with the process here. Might make you rethink, exactly what we're doing here.
We have to desensitize ourselves from the fact that this piece of meat used to be a living being. This desensitization is more indirect and much less intense than the slaughterhouse workers, but I guess at low levels it is still there. Putting aside the physical effects animal products may have on our bodies, what impact, if any, does that desensitization have on our mental, spiritual, and emotional well-being?
And the mechanism, again, by which this happens is specifically the short chain or medium, I forget if it's short chain or medium chain, but the production of butyrate by the good bacteria, these healthy bacteria, which are completely wiped out as soon as you stop feeding them fiber. Even for going on just a day-long fast, these bacteria begin to start getting wiped out because they depend on that high fiber, on that resistant starch. They depend on what we've been eating for over 20 million years of human evolution, however you want to consider that, from high starch foods, roots, tubers, we've been subsisting on the starch, which is the primary fuel for the brain, that long-burning, clean-burning glucose. But so what happens, as soon as you stop feeding that bacteria, and as soon as those bacteria stop producing that butyrate from the fiber intake, it sends out a signal to the rest of the gut bacteria that it is under attack from foreign invaders. And whether So it detects the lack of presence of fiber. It detects this as a warning signal that literally produces explosive diarrhea. This is exactly the cause of disaster pants. As soon as you go on a fast or you stop feeding that good bacteria, that fiber, that resistant starch that it needs, you will start exploding out your ass. Literally, that's what happens. That's what happens when your bacteria stop producing butyrate.
The total surface area of our gut is maybe 3,000 square feet, counting all the little folds, larger than a tennis court. Yet only a single layer of cells separates our inner core from the outer chaos. The primary fuel that keeps this critical cell layer alive is a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate, which our good bacteria make from the fiber we eat. We feed the good bacteria in our gut, and they feed us right back. They take the prebiotics we eat like fiber, and in return provide the vital fuel source that feeds the cells that line our colon, a prototypical example of the kind of symbiosis between us and our gut flora. How important are these compounds, our good bacteria derived from fiber? There's a condition known as diversion colitis that frequently develops in segments of the colon or rectum after surgical diversion of the fecal stream, meaning if you skip a segment of the bowel, like with an ileostomy, so that food no longer passes through that section, it becomes inflamed and can start bleeding, breaking down, closing off. How frequently does this happen? Up to 100% of the time. But the inflammation uniformly disappears after you reattach it to the fecal flow.
See, this is exactly contrary to what everyone just intuitively assumes, which is that they always complain about, oh, the fiber, the roughage is literally, oh, it's scratching and scraping up my bowels, it's hurting me on the inside, when the truth is that what actually happens inside is the exact opposite of that, of what you think you're experiencing. That's not the cause of it, it's the cure of it, because the fiber is literally what acts as a broom, and it literally sweeps the lining of your colon clean. Not only that, that fiber binds heavy metals, excess cholesterol, excess endogenous hormones such as estrogens. So it literally is the most important nutrient that we can get. It is absolutely an essential nutrient. For everyone saying that fiber is not an essential nutrient is living in a previous decade, or living in a previous century. They are not up to they're not thinking clearly. They're not thinking on the cutting edge of how important the fiber is. It's the key nutrient to overall longevity and health and well-being. It reduces risk of everything by means of this fiber and the processes that occur and knock down the line because of that. So the fiber is literally the key element of detoxification. It's the main and pretty much almost the only pathway of detoxification out of the body is through the bowels, only with fiber. As soon as you stop eating the fiber, that is the moment that you really stop detoxification, especially through the methylation cycle, as Goji Man just fully explained to us thoroughly and in depth. So literally nothing could be further from the truth with a high meat or any type of low carb diet. And not only that, but the saturated fat itself also promotes gut dysbiosis, which also is a key factor in causing leaky gut and irritable bowel, IBS, and Crohn's, as well as colon cancer and hormone estrogen-driven cancers as well. So this is a really interesting study that I came across. A high-fat diet leads obviously to obesity and metabolic syndromes and affects the functions and reproductive system. High-fat diet induced microbiota dysbiosis and endotoxemia have been reported. So again, the endotoxins from the high-fat diet of the gut dysbiosis is producing endotoxemia, which is toxicity in the blood and in the lymphatic system. And emerging evidence demonstrated that gut microbiota dysbiosis is closely associated with a series of major chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cancer, irritable bowel diseases, and neurodegenerative diseases. Everything that I've been talking about throughout this film here. Again, all triggered by the high-fat diet. Significance of this study. What are the new... So those are the things that are already well known on this subject. But the new findings of this study, of course, again, this is just mouse data, but it provides very interesting questions to be followed through on human data, is that the high-fat diet, by mechanism of gut dysbiosis, actually reduces sperm count and motility and fertility as well. Clinically, the abundance of Bacteroides prevotella was negatively correlated with the subject's sperm motility, but the blood endotoxin level was positively correlated with the abundance of Bacteroides in the gut. Blood endotoxemia positively correlated with the abundance of Bacteroides in the gut. How might this study impact on clinical practice in the foreseeable future? The present study represents the first report in the field of gut microbes to functionally establish the linkage between imbalanced gut, or in other words, gut dysbiosis, from the high-fat diet, leading to impairment of male fertility. Which is why Sean Baker's sperm counts or testosterone levels are lower than a 93-year-old grandma, as in his sperm counts probably are as well. The results presented herein will shed new light on the cause of male infertility and the possibility of treating at least some of these patients by restoring gut microbial ecosystem.
We didn't know what caused it, maybe some kind of bacterial overgrowth or bad bacteria, or was it a nutritional deficiency of the lining of the colon due to the absence of the fiber needed to create the short-chain fatty acids? We didn't know until this study, where they cured the inflammation by bathing the lining in what it so desperately needed. Severe inflammation gone in just a few weeks. We feed the good bacteria in our gut, and they feed us right back. It makes sense that we have good bacteria in our gut that feed us, tries to keep us healthy. They got a pretty good thing going, right? It's warm and moist, and food just keeps magically coming down the pipe. But if we die, they lose out on all that. If we die, they die. So it's in their best evolutionary interest, right, to keep our colon happy. But there are bad bugs too, like cholera that cause diarrhea. They have a different strategy. The sicker they can make us, the more explosive the diarrhea, the better their chances of spreading to other people, into other colons. They don't care if we die because they don't intend on going down with the ship. So how does the body keep the good bacteria around while getting rid of the bad? Think about it. We have literally trillions of bacteria in our gut. And so our immune system must constantly maintain a balance between tolerance to good bacteria while attacking bad bacteria. If we mess up this fine balance and start attacking harmless bacteria, it could lead to inflammatory bowel disease, where we're in constant red alert attack mode. The mechanisms by which the immune system maintains this critical balance remained largely undefined until now. If you think about it, there's got to be a way for our good bacteria to signal to our immune system that they're the good guys, and that signal is butyrate. Butyrate suppresses the inflammatory reaction, tells our immune system to stand down. So butyrate may behave as a microbial signal to inform our immune system that the relative levels of good bacteria are within the desired range. Right? Butyrate calms the immune system down, saying in effect, all's well, you got the good guys on board, ultimately rendering the intestinal immune system hypo-responsive, meaning kind of accommodating to the beneficial bacteria. But in the absence of the calming effect of butyrate, our immune system is back in full force, attacking the bacteria within our gut, because they're obviously not the right ones since butyrate levels are so low. So we evolved to have butyrate suppress our immune reaction. So should our good bacteria ever get wiped out and bad bacteria take over, our immune system would be able to sense this and go on a rampage and destroy the invaders and continue rampaging until there are only good bacteria creating butyrate to put the immune system back to sleep. Okay, here's the critical piece. Here's why this all matters. What if we don't eat enough fiber? Remember, our good bacteria use fiber to create butyrate. So if we don't eat enough fiber, then we can't make enough butyrate. We could have lots of good bacteria, but if we don't feed them fiber, they can't make butyrate. Sensing such low levels of butyrate, our body mistakenly thinks our gut must be filled with bad bacteria and reacts accordingly. our body can mistake low fiber intake for having a population of bad bacteria in our gut. Our body doesn't know about processed food. It evolved over millions of years getting massive fiber intake. Even during the Paleolithic period, 100 grams of fiber a day. So on fiber-deficient Western diets, eating our Spam on Wonder Bread, right, when our body detects low butyrate levels in the gut, it doesn't think low fiber. As far as our body's concerned, there's no such thing as low fiber. It thinks bad bacteria. Because for millions of years, low butyrate means bad bacteria. So that's the signal for our body to go on the inflammatory offensive. So that's one reason why fiber can be so anti-inflammatory. One of the reasons fiber intake is critical for optimal health. Not fiber supplements, but whole plant foods. Fiber supplementation with something like Metamucil may not replicate the results seen with a diet naturally high in fiber.
I've had strange bowel movements. The last time I had something like this happen to me was during a major detox where I went 3 days without food or water, and my body expulsed, I guess that's the word, and my body produced, I believe, my liver produced yellow bile that actually stained the toilet bowl like if it was turmeric. If you've ever manipulated turmeric in the kitchen, if it touches anything, it's gonna stain. Well, it was a little bit like that, and so during that dry fast, I experienced this, and I just experienced this yesterday. So it looks like I'm having a really strong detox, which raises the question, I'd love to know if the carnivore diet is as detoxifying as it is nourishing, or is it more nourishing than it is detoxifying? Is it both? Is it both at the same time? Is it first detox, then nourishment? I'm really curious to find out all these answers, which we may never find out, but we'll see.
I'm eating a lot of fat. I'm eating bacon with all these wild game dishes, everything I eat bacon with, because I need fat.
You have to have fat with a lean. Lean and fat together make a perfect diet. A balanced diet. A balanced diet. Balanced diet. You have everything you need if you have both lean and fat.
You fuck around, have a seizure or heart attack, you better back the fuck up before you get smacked the fuck up. It's how we do it on our side.
And then I'm cooking everything in beef tallow.
Wow.
And then I'm getting like fatty meat too.
No butter or anything?
I'm using butter.
Okay.
But what the hell does methylation and demethylation have to do with Joe Rogan on a carnivore diet? So let me explain. The easiest way to think of methylation is to use the light switch analogy. So if you think that every process in your body requires the light switch to be on. So from extracting glucose from the food that you eat and converting this into ATP energy in your mitochondria, or how effectively your body detoxes, all of these processes need the light switch on. And that's all that methylation is. It's simply a process of controlling processes in the body with on and off switches. So methylation is switching on and demethylation is switching off. So when you eat fruits and vegetables, particularly dark leafy greens and beans, etc., you get lots of methyl groups. And these methyl groups help switch on and off a number of responses in the body, such as detoxification, hormone production, inflammation, energy production, immune responses, and also DNA repair. Now, if you have a lack of methyl groups in your body because you are following the carnivore diet, or you have a mutation in your MTHFR gene, then you are massively setting yourself up for health failure. And let me quickly explain this to you. Now, this slide I'm about to put up looks very complicated, but it's actually very straightforward. So please stay with me because it's super important that you know this information. So this diagram shows lots of different biochemical processes in the body, and this area right here is the methylation cycle. So at the top you have methionine, which is an essential amino acid and essential for the methylation pathway. So down here you can see homocysteine. So when methionine is converted into homocysteine, it releases a methyl group. So as we know, methylation is critical for all processes in the body. So when your body isn't methylating correctly, all of the various biochemical processes on this chart do not function properly. So for example, if you are not methylating properly, then you won't be producing enough glutathione, which is your body's master antioxidant. Another important way the body removes toxins is via sulfation in the liver, which again, this pathway will struggle if the methylation cycle isn't running properly. And down here you can also see that your happy hormones, so serotonin and dopamine, are also heavily dependent on the methylation cycle. So for example, if you have a healthy gut and diet but have an MTHFR mutation, then this could explain your anxiety and depression. So if we go back to this methylation cycle, methionine gets constantly converted to homocysteine and homocysteine to methionine. So if this process isn't functioning properly and you have high homocysteine levels, well, you are at an increased risk of heart disease and also cancer. So where does the MTHFR enzyme fit into all of this? Well, the MTHFR sits here. It stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. So as I said previously, the MTHFR enzyme adds methyl groups to molecules, etc. So as you can see in this methylation cycle, MTHFR adds a methyl group to homocysteine so that it can be converted back into methionine. So quite simply, everything on that screen, the whole methylation cycle, will not operate effectively with the absence of folate in Joe Rogan's diet. So in the short term, not too much of an issue, but over the longer term, those following a carnivore diet because of this methylation problem are at an increased risk of many different chronic diseases such as heart disease and cancer. So that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.
Butyrate, which is only produced by the healthy gut bacteria, which only feed on resistant starch, which is primarily found in beans and whole grains, almost exclusively in beans and whole grains, as well as some other high starchy, dense, fibrous foods. You won't even find it in hardly any fruits at all. And so get this even more. When those epithelial cells are starved of butyrate, it actually loosens the joints of the bowel wall, which literally creates leaky gut and irritable IBS, Crohn's, leaky gut, all of that stuff. All of that entire process begins with the lack of fiber. That is what causes the leaky gut and all of these bowel diseases, which is the underlying cause of almost all of these autoimmune diseases, which are triggered once the junctions in the bowel wall become separated and begin to leak toxins like oxalates, salicylates, histamines directly into the lymphatic system through the bowel wall, which then gets directly into the bloodstream and then begins to auto-intoxicate the body, where the immune cells then start to attack the body's own organs in these autoimmune diseases. All begins because of your lack of fiber intake, primarily your lack of beans and whole grains. Like if you at the point where you can't eat beans or whole grains, you're pretty much never going to be healthy, because that is the primary food source for all the longest living, healthiest populations on earth, because of this mechanistic process, this entire chain of biochemical processes which happens and begins strictly because of the prebiotics, the prebiotic resistant starch and insoluble fiber content of these high starchy plant foods, which people are complaining about and can't eat. And when you start to get gas and bloating from trying to eat beans, you need to just gradually increase your intake of beans until wait 2 weeks, rather than doing the explosive diarrhea carnivore diet, which is going to kill you within a couple years, if not a lot less, if not a lot shorter time. Instead of doing that, then just eat a couple handfuls of beans, gradually increase your intake of beans until your microbiome adjusts, and then you're able to handle these high starchy foods and find yourself a good plant-based physician, Don't go to a chiropractor for nutritional health. Do not go to an acupuncturist for nutritional health. Do not go to your local naturopath for nutritional health. Go find a plant-based physician from plantbaseddocs.org. Find a good plant-based physician, which most of them are all lifestyle medicine practitioners. They're not part of the Illuminati conspiracy out to kill you and depopulate the earth. These are the ones who are on the cutting edge of nutritional science, who are well versed in the science and will actually fix your underlying issues for good, for the long term. Go find you a plant-based physician at plantbaseddocs.org. Get rid of your naturopath, get rid of your acupuncturist, as far as nutritional health information goes at least. Get rid of your integrative medicine practitioner, your naturopath. Get rid of all of these clowns. Go to an actual plant-based physician and do that. And I want every one of you to send this video to Paul Saladino, to not Dr. Sean Baker, and you tell the leading low-carb and carnivore boss deadly disinformation. It's going to stop now. You send them over here and we're going to have a discussion about all of this. Because they're trying to deny all of this. They won't talk about it. They're trying to ignore it because they have no idea how any of it works.
There's another school of thought, though. Some people think that keto diet has the opposite effect of disaster pants and can actually back you up and cause constipation.
Which it can, yeah. So for a lot of people, if they are not eating much fiber, which a lot of people on a keto diet are not, I admit, now some people will just load up with non-starchy vegetables and maybe they're getting enough fiber, but if they're not, yeah, constipation is definitely a side effect. Now,
and really what it came down to is that the only thing that this diet has been scientifically proven to benefit is children with epilepsy.
And adults with epilepsy.
Okay.
It absolutely reduces seizure frequency for a lot of people.
Right.
That's a very small subset of the population.
Correct.
And again, I just, my heart, it just hurts for people because I know people are turning to this because they're desperate.
Right.
They're just desperate. They
Right.
want change and they're going to try anything. And the problem is that this anything could have some really serious risks along with some very uncomfortable side effects.
Right. I want to circle back to the malodorous side effect that I was talking about with Dr. Christy Cobb earlier in the show. And she brought up a study that referenced bacterial vaginosis. And that is what they think that the best guess anyway.
Correct,
is that
right.
that would be what the actual keto crotch is.
Yes. Trying to keep a straight face when you say that.
Right. What researchers found was that a person who eats foods that are rich in calcium and folate and vitamin A have a reduced risk of developing bacterial vaginosis.
Calcium, folate, and vitamin A? That makes me think dark leafy greens.
I know. And here we have the Fiber Queen fitting on the Disaster Pants show.
Yay.
I don't see a lot of upside to this diet. I honestly don't. Unless you have epilepsy, I'm not seeing a whole lot of upside to this.
And even if you have epilepsy, the goal is to get people back off of this way of eating as quickly as possible.
Right.
So this is not, if someone needs it for long-term use, it can be done, but this is sort of a last resort measure, not the first thing that people try.
So stay tuned for the next part. We'll pick up right here where we left off. You can watch it. I will leave any intros and stuff out so that you can watch it in a consecutive style. And so again, my name is Cullen Smith. This is Lifting the Veil. You can find all of my full books, presentations, videos, films, articles, posts at patreon.com/liftingtheveil. And there is also a ton of exclusive content, and I will leave the cited reference links in the description down below. So you can check that out for all of my full content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe. Please help me reach more people by sharing these videos around on the internet, because I rely solely on word of mouth, and the recommended algorithms are not recommending any of my videos or films anymore. My channel has literally been completely restricted, so I rely on your help, and I need your help, so please help support this channel by sharing my work around if you appreciate it, and make sure to subscribe if you're not a subscriber already, and leave me your comments. I definitely want to know what you have to share and what you have to think about all of this stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Y'all stay safe and take care of yourselves, and I will see you later.